Welcome once again to technical communication class. So, by now I guess you are in the state to understand what this communication is all about, because this is the last lecture of first unit. As I have already said that first unit is going to talk about lots of complex concepts, and this is the unit on which the upcoming units are based. These are micro concepts, and the upcoming unit will be dealing with the micro concepts. Today's topic that we are going to discuss is flow of communication and barriers to communication. Now, before I go deep into flow of communication, I would like to narrate a particular incident that now and then takes place in the corporate world. And what is that incident? There was a girl, Mrs. X, and a boy called Mr. Y. They had some kind of infatuation, had an affair. These two now and then meet, and at the same time work in a same office under a single boss, Mr. Z. The relation was going on as usual, and it was approx a year or so till when they had a relation. All of a sudden, there was some problem between them, and what went wrong was still a suspense. One fine morning, Miss X straight away moves down to the boss cabin, Mr. Z, with crying face. She was literally crying and was in a emotional breakdown situation. Marking this, Mr. Z, the boss, very sophisticatedly asked Miss X to have a seat, served her with a glass of water, and asked her to relax. And then after 5 or to 7 minutes, when boss felt that yes, now she has calmed down, she is feeling comfortable, he started asking question. What went wrong, Miss X? Why are you crying? Miss X started narrating the story by saying that Mr. Y has sexually harassed me, and I have been literally insulted. My sanctity has been at stake. Mr. Z, the boss, was a bit confused. Now what to do? Being a technical man, he asked Miss Y to just jot down whatever she has said as a statement, and then he asked Miss X to leave for the day. You go and just relax, you're not keeping well, and it's better that you take rest for the day, and you may go home. After a while, Mr. Z, the boss, called Mr. Y and very diplomatically, sophisticatedly asked him even to have a seat, served him with a glass of water and a cup of tea, and said, yes, Mr. Y, what's up? What's going on? Mr. Y said, it's okay, sir, everything is cool. Okay. And what about the assignments that were given to you? So, yeah, maximum of them have been completed and few are at the verge of being completed. Mr. Z, the boss, said, okay, fine, thank you. Mr. Y left the cabin. After that, what happened is, Mr. Z was but confused, the boss. Who is right? Who is wrong? Miss X claims that Mr. Y has sexually harassed, whereas there is no kind of regret, no kind of facial expression from Mr. Y. Now, he wanted to try other fundas, other techniques to find out the reality. And he was quite calm. He waited for a day or so. Next day, Miss X again turned up, and Mr. Y even was present on that day. Both were keenly observed. Mr. Z made it sure that both were under surveillance. How they behave and what are the reasons behind that? Gradually, what Mr. Z planned is, he started calling one by one those people who are closely associated with Miss X and Mr. Y. And he took all the statements, noted it down and analyzed the statements jotted down by all these people. And what was inferred? What was concluded? The conclusion was, Miss X was wrong. She just wanted to put Mr. Y down just because of personal grievances. And there was no any situation where Mr. Y had sexually harassed Miss X. Surprise, isn't it? Such incidents in corporate world is very common. Well, here the story stops. And as I have already said, we will be discussing with flow of communication, right? And how this flow of communication is relevant, correlated and associated with the story, how story is going to justify that, gradually we will come to know that. Flow of communication. By now what we have studied is, we have studied what is technical communication, features, coverage, extent. We have studied general communication, technical communication. We have studied then how technical sentences are written, paragraphs are drafted. Then we have studied the different methods of paragraph development, techniques of paragraph development, and now we are studying flow of communication. If you remember in my last lecture, I had made it very clear that language, process of communication and LSRW, these are the macro concept on which the complete communication thrives. Now, if corporate world is a system, and in that system we are trying to apply communication, so definitely if people are there, you have to instruct them, inform them, discuss with them, then only functionalities or the output or the objective of the organization will be met. So if anything is a system, as I have already said, communication is also a kind of a system, right? It is scientific in nature, and I have proved it in the last lecture, right? How language is scientific. because language has a method, language has a theory, language has a technique, language has a parts, types, kinds, right? Language has a function. Same is the case with every system. If corporate world is a system, then every corporate world must have team and group. Do you know what? There is a great statement made by one of the top CEO of multinational company. What he says, the success of an organization depends on the quality and quantity of information floating in it. Hey, if information is not flowing properly in accurate, appropriate amount, then what would happen? There will be a flow, breakdown of communication, isn't it? So now what I have said is, there are lots of teams in a corporate world. And what do you mean by team and how it is different from group? Group means a congregation of a set of people with varied objective and target. Whereas a team is again a set of people with one objective, but with the different technical skills. As you might be knowing that in your own, maybe your you're from any department, maybe from CS, EC, EN, mechanical. How you have observed in your department, subject experts faculty is there. The faculty has a very good hold on a particular subject or an area, and if you ask him any questions related to that particular subject or area, he is so prompt in answering those questions that you feel yes, he knows that. And what about the other faculty members? They are expert in other areas. So, but both the faculty member or all the faculty member of your department are working for SRMS Trust, isn't it? So, SRMS Trust as an institution has one objective, one mission, one vision, and for all these employees who are there in SRMS are working for that vision, mission, isn't it? Isn't it? Fine. But they have different technical skills. Same is the case in the corporate world. There are different teams with different technical skills and they are put together for a particular objective. Fine. Now, what are the hierarchy? Let us now talk. There is a picture that I have drew on the board, right? There is a particular hierarchy which is marked, observed, and it is the need of the corporate world. Generally, every organization more or less has CEO or COO. These are the abbreviations which are used. Every CEO layer looks after certain set of general managers. Say for time being, let us consider a scene where CEO is looking after 4 general managers. General manager 1, 2, 3, 4. Each general manager again looks after a set of managers, Say for the time being, general manager 1 looks after manager 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Same is the case with general manager 2, 3, 4. They also look after a set of managers. Again, manager under them there are lots of people who are working. There may be assistant managers, supervisors, clerks, peon. It goes down deep into the system. Right now, see here. If I take this particular graph that I have drawn on the board, here itself there are lots of team and group. Team means what? If we talk about all the people who come under general manager 1, they are a team. But what about the people who come under general manager 2? What about the people who come under general manager 3? What about the people who come under general manager 4? They are different groups in comparison to the general manager 1. They are not literally group, but once you compare these two people, they are, one is group, another is team. Just reason why? Because they have different set of technical skills, they have different level of expertise, and their expertise directly doesn't affect the general manager 1 group or team, right? Team means what? Once they are working together with more or less same set of skills, techniques for a particular object. And why am I saying this, Why am I saying this? Because on the day-to-day basis, if you are near lots of people who are part of your team, you need to cooperate, you need to, associate, coordinate with other people. You might have seen Chak De India, right? A very famous movie by Shah Rukh Khan. And what was the concept we have flown or disseminated through that particular movie? What was the theme of that movie? All the players in Chak De India were expert in their areas. Some was very good in playing front, back, as a goalkeeper, but they were not having cooperation and coordination. The bonding process was missing in them. And just because bonding process was missing in them, what Shah Rukh Khan did is, he created an emotional bonding between them. He made them realize that a game is won by a team. No individual, if he is not having any cooperation, coordination with all the rest of the team, then the victory is not possible. Same is the case with the organization. You need to have a cooperation and coordination with all the people. And if you have cooperation, coordination and a proper bonding process, then only the success is possible. Right? So based on this graph, basically information and instruction, see, these are two terms you have to understand. Information policy is again two terms, because see, you are learning communication. And if you remember the last 2 to 3 lectures that we have discussed, I always emphasize on the words, right? There's a difference between what? Opinion and view. I made it clear, right? There's a difference between fact and information, that I made it clear, right? So you have to understand, if I am using a term, I am using it with denotative meaning. It has a specific set of meaning. And if you do not understand the specific set of meaning, then you won't behave, you won't react or respond in a proper way, right? So on basis of this graph, the communication flows in four ways. Simple. How? One is downward. See the arrow here. Downward. Second is upward. And third is diagonal. Right? Fourth is horizontal. See the arrow that I have already created in the graph. These arrows would help you to understand why and how this flow of communication takes place. Fine. And if you mark there, see what is their case. Why would anyone, a general manager, interact with the lowest hierarchy people? Say peon, say clerk. Just because of dissemination of policies, the decision made at the top. Who makes the decision? Who makes the policy in any organization? The top leading people, right? CEO, the owner, the chairman, the general managers, they are the one who are the stakeholders in making decisions. And say if this decision, these policies are not reaching to the lowest level of the hierarchy, then what would happen? They won't behave, they won't enact, they won't be aware, and they would start behaving in a different way, which will ultimately lead to the breakdown of communication. The mission, vision, objective of the organization must be clear to each and every person in an organization. And if that is not clear, then what? Hey, everybody is working, but working with different mindset, with different objective, in different direction. Obviously, then the result will be different. It won't be what was targeted. Why targets are given in the organization? Why now and then meetings are held? Just to disseminate the upper policy. The people who at the up hierarchy level have disseminated, made certain policy, and they want the other people to understand. Maybe related to anything, maybe related to say functionality, maybe related to methods, maybe related to some new changes in the government policies, taxation. Maybe right now, government made it very clear in the COVID-19, what? That only 20 to 30% of the employees will be allowed to work in an organization. Hey, And now this was a policy, and this policy should be disseminated to the lowest level of the people in an hierarchy, in an organization, and